Hey, so what we want to do next, if you haven't been here before, one of the things that, if you look around this room, there's probably some people you know, there's probably some people you don't. And what we've been asking our seniors this year, we've been asking our seniors if they would come up and share a part of their story, a little bit of who they are, where they've come from, some of the experiences they've had, and some of the things even through high school that maybe were really good decisions or some things that they learned from that. And the hope with that is that you guys, those of you who are still in high school, can hear this and think, there's someone that's walked this path. Maybe they walked it just like me, maybe they're walking it totally differently, but here's someone that's done it before. And so I've asked one of our seniors to come up and share a little bit of his story tonight. There's probably a lot of things he's not going to have time to go into full detail with. I don't know if, I'm assuming this is cool, but if you hear something that he says and you want to hear more about that, go ask him about it afterwards. I'm sure he would, as somebody who comes up and speaks on stage, a lot of times you don't get to tell things in the detail you want. If you're finding yourself in his shoes, or you just want to hear more about what he meant when he said this, that, or the other, go ask him about it. He would love to talk to you more about that. But I don't want to take any more of his time. Will you guys give a big summit welcome, make him feel good, to my friend Leo. Come on.
All right, so yeah, my name is Leo Sundstrom, and I'm a senior at Fairview. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about my story and kind of some of the things I've learned throughout high school. So basically, when I was young, I was a competitive gymnast, and that was kind of my whole identity. And it was wrapped in going to school and leaving at 2 and going to do gymnastics for 6 hours and then coming back and then doing it all again. And I really enjoyed it, and it was a big passion of mine. But in 8th grade, I had some injuries and just was a little burnt out, and so I ended up quitting gymnastics. And then I was a little bit kind of lost going into high school because I didn't really have that identity in that sport that I'd done my whole life. So then, freshman year, it was pretty good. I didn't know a ton of people going in. But I was on the mountain bike team, I did the track team, and I made some friends, but it definitely wasn't as positive of a year as I'd wanted to or hoped for, and I kind of found myself getting a little lost in this idea of trying to make friends and like popularity and everything around that. Sophomore year, I became pretty close with one of my good friends now, Josh Candy, and at the end of the year he was like, you should come on this mission trip, like, it's really cool, like, you can get to meet a lot of people, and it's just going to be a cool experience. So, after a lot of back and forth, I was like, well, I guess I'll just go on the mission trip, and it was Costa Rica, and I didn't really, when it came to church, I hadn't really gone as a kid, other than kind of for Christmas or for Easter, and I didn't really know much of the stories or what church really looked like. And so the mission trip, I was just kind of going in blind, just hoping to really just have a good time and meet new people. And since that mission trip, I've gotten really close with a lot of the guys that I went with, and it kind of has just been all uphill from there. And the past 2 years of high school have just been a really positive experience, and it all kind of stemmed from that mission trip and that summer with them, and kind of feeling really comfortable just in my own life and knowing that I could just go for it in academics and athletics and just live life a little more freely since that mission trip. And when it comes to religion, I feel like I'm still pretty new into it, and I have a lot of questions still. But regardless of where I stand, I really enjoy coming here and coming to Ascent and hearing people's stories and hearing the stories from the Bible. And I always come away, just regardless of how much I believe, taking away a really strong message. And Chris, thank you for introducing this church to me, and to all the guys back there. Thanks for supporting me so much and introducing me into Ascent.
It's awesome. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Leo. These are my favorite parts of that. I love when I just get to hear more of people's stories. I love getting to know more about who people are and where they've come from. The stories that each one of you guys carry is something that is incredible. We'd love to hear each one of you guys at some point if we ever get the chance to. I think sharing your story is one of the most personal and intimate things you can do with someone, because it's you being known. And again, some of the things that Leo doesn't have time to come up here and tell you everything about himself. So if you want to know more about that, please ask him about it. He is a guy that I wish I'd known him, Leo's, when I was in high school, because I probably would have avoided a lot of really stupid decisions and been surrounded by a much better community. So, if you want to hear more about him, please go talk to him about that. What I want to do tonight, I want to sort of start a conversation that my hope is in this is that this is something that you, with your small group, can get a chance to talk about. I usually kind of go in a different way with this, but what I want to do is I actually want to start by looking at the story of our lives right now. Where you would say you are in your life at this moment, and what I want to do is for those a lot of people that come in here. Some of you guys might be really familiar with being in a church. Some of you guys, this might be the first time you ever walked into a church. If you're like me, I didn't know anything about this stuff growing up. But what I want to do is I want to start and I want to look at something that's in the Bible. And one of the reasons, when we come in here, we want this to be a spot where my guess is, or kind of my philosophy is, I think every single one of us is trying to figure out how to do life the very best that they can. I think that all of us are sitting there going like, I would love to know that I did this the best that it could be done. I got the most out of high school. I got the most out of life that I could. And we're all trying to navigate how to do that. We may have different ways of doing it, but that's what we're trying to take out of this. That's what we're trying to accomplish. And I hope I could say this. My guess is, if I were to ask each one of you guys, my guess would be that you guys, when you look at your own life, there's probably a number of us that are saying, what I've experienced so far, I hope this isn't it. What I've had so far, maybe it's been great. Maybe some of the experiences I've had have been really hard. Maybe some of the things that I've been experiencing this year or over the last season of my life have been really difficult. Maybe they've been great. But my hope is that all of you are sitting saying, I hope there's something more than just this. If you're completely satisfied and you think I have peaked and this is all life has to offer, I promise you there's more to it. And if you've sat in a space of being disappointed, saying, I hope there's something more than this, there is. And that's what I want to look at a little bit tonight. So I want to look at two stories from the Bible one of the reasons that I like to look at the Bible. If you're unfamiliar looking at the Bible before, I think that the Bible is a lot of things. A lot of people tell you a lot of things about it. But the most generic thing about it is I think it's a phenomenal way to get to know who God is. And I also think it's a phenomenal way to get to know what human beings as a whole are. And so if you've never read a Bible, or if you're unfamiliar reading a Bible, when I read the Bible, a lot of times I'll ask myself, what is it that I see about God in this, and what is it that I see about me, or what is it I see about humanity that shows up in this? And I want to look at two stories that I bet every single person in this room could insert themselves into in a way. And I'm going to kind of paraphrase them. I'd encourage you, if you don't have a Bible, we've got a whole bunch on that table back there. Or if you have one, you can read these later. I just want to give you like an idea of this, because I want to tell you two stories, and I want to sort of see where you are in those stories. If you haven't read it, what I want to look at, there's a book in the Bible. It's one of the books that talks about the story of Jesus. And if you're new to church, you know what I'm talking about. I believe that the God of the universe decided He wanted us to understand what He was like, so He became a human being. That human's name was Jesus, and He lived a life. He died a death, and then the big thing is He came back from the dead. And that's like the most generic thing that we talk about here. If you want to know more about that, I could share it with you. But in the midst of that story, in one of the books of the Bible that tells that story, in Luke at the end of it tells a story about a couple of people that in their world, they had put their faith in God. They had thought Jesus was gonna be the way of their life, and then when they saw Him die, before He had risen from the dead, their life fell apart. The world as they knew it, they'd been living in Jerusalem. They thought this was the city where everything was going to change. And their world, as they had thought it was going to go, fell apart. They were filled with disappointment. They were filled with pain. They were filled with loss. And in the story of this, it says that they were on a road to a city called Emmaus. And they decided that the city that I'm in right now, Jerusalem, has nothing left for me. All I experience here is pain and disappointment. I cannot keep going like this. Perhaps if I can get to Emmaus, something can get better. For some of us, the world that we might be in, our Jerusalem, if you want to take this metaphor, things haven't worked out the way we wanted them to. Maybe it's because of COVID. Maybe it's going back in person that actually nothing changed. Everybody's still as crappy as they used to be. The reputation I had a year ago, I still have now. I still can't escape that. Maybe it doesn't have anything to do with COVID. Maybe it's something that my family is falling apart and I don't know what to do. Maybe it's I am terrified about what I'm supposed to do next. Maybe it's that I don't know why, but I'm still not desired by the person that I wish did or by anybody. And my world as it is right now is filled with despair, is filled with pain, is filled with disappointment, and all I want is to find something that makes it a little bit better. So some of us might say, if I were to put myself in that story, I'm on my way. I'm trying to find my Emmaus. Maybe your Emmaus is something that is just, it's just something different. It's something that relieves the pain. It's something that doesn't hurt. It's something that doesn't remind you of the pain. There's another story that's going on in another book of the Bible. It's called Acts. And in Acts, there's a character in it. Some of you guys who grew up in church, you might have heard about this person. If you didn't, his name is Saul. And Saul was someone that had lived his life being on top of it all, had done everything, every impressive thing you could do, every resume builder, every achievement that he could do, he had gained it. He had tried to be the most impressive person, worked harder than anybody else, achieved things younger than anybody else. And in the midst of his trying over and over to be the most impressive, to get the most achievements, something wasn't enough. He had nailed the titles. He had done everything that he set out to do, and yet it wasn't enough. He found himself going, I got to find something else. I got to find something else to prove myself by. I got to find some other way for people to recognize me, some other way for people to appreciate me. And he finds himself saying, I wonder if I can get to Damascus. If I can get to Damascus, maybe I can find that thing that will satisfy me. Maybe, even though I've had all these things here, I'm not satisfied yet. And maybe if I get here, I can find it. Or maybe he just felt the pressure of going, I've been known as this person here. And if I don't keep that reputation up, I don't know if anyone's going to care about me. I don't know if I'm going to fade away. I don't know if I'm going to all of a sudden be hated by people. So I got to find the next thing that proves my worth. And he thinks that's going to be Damascus. And I'd say for a lot of us in here have worked really hard to achieve the things that we're supposed to have in high school. We've either done really well academically, or we've dated that person, we've slept with that person, or we've been in this spot, or we've never done these things, and maybe it's that some of us are sitting there going, I've had all these things, and yet I'm not satisfied here. I don't feel good here. I feel like I need something else. Or maybe there's just that pressure of going, this is how you've always been known, this is what's expected of you, and you better keep proving it, or else you're going to lose it, and no one's going to care about you, and you're going to be alone, and it's going, okay, I got to find the next thing to achieve at, or the next thing to build my life around, and maybe that's Damascus. The question I want to ask you guys is which road are you on? If you were to take these two stories, if you were to read the story in Luke, if you were to read the story in Acts, are you the couple of people whose life has fallen apart, whose life is pain and sorrow, is thinking, gosh, can I get to Emmaus? Or is your story saying, no matter how much I do these things, no matter how much I try, I am not satisfied, or I feel this pressure to continue to succeed, I got to get to Damascus. For me, in my story, I feel like I'm trying to get to Damascus. I was in high school. I did pretty well in school. You know, that was pretty easy for me. I wasn't a really good athlete, but I was fast, and I ran track, and that was something that I could excel at. I dated the prom queen, and we had we were a 3-year relationship. It was that, I had these things that said, this is what you're supposed to do in order to succeed in high school, and yet all I felt was anxiety every single day I woke up about what if I can't hold this together, and how do I continue to prove this? How do I continue to show people that I'm impressive, so that way they don't start to think that I'm not worth anything? I've got to find something else. Even in my life now, I mean, if you were to look at it, and this isn't like a weird brag, like in my life now, there are a lot of things that I'm very happy that have showed up in my life. I mean, I've got a wonderful family, I've got a great kid, I've got a job that I love, and yet I feel this like I've got to get something else, or else this might all fall apart. And maybe that's what your story looks like, or maybe it's this other side. And maybe it's this other side of saying, like, I got to find something to relieve. I can't stay here. If this is all there is, I'm not going to make it. I got to find something to distract me. I got to find something to comfort me. I got to get out of this. I got to redefine. I got to get to Emmaus. Where are you in this story? What is Damascus for you? What is Emmaus for you? And which one do you feel like you're moving to? You feel like you're moving towards both? What I want to do is I want to look at what happens in each one of these stories, and then see what it means for our lives too. So, if you look in Luke 24, these two guys, they're headed to Emmaus. But here's the thing that I think is maybe the most important thing. What changed these guys' lives in both of these stories, and I'll get into both of them. What changed both of them is their lives did not have a dramatic change because they made it to Emmaus or because they made it to Damascus. Some of you guys know that. Some of you guys have tried this before. I've been down this road before. I've tried to find something to comfort me, something to relieve this pain, and yet I still feel it. Some of you guys have been down this road before too. I've been to Damascus. I've found that next thing. I've tried to be good, and yet the pressure doesn't let off. What happens in these stories, the two guys that are headed to Emmaus, in the midst of that, they have an encounter with God. God shows up around them, and they decide to invite him into a conversation of what's going on in their lives. And they talk to him about the disappointment they've experienced, the pain they've experienced, the hardship they feel, the disappointment they have, the overwhelmed sense of loss that they're experiencing. And in the midst of that conversation, Jesus widens their perspective, shows them a different way of seeing things, helps them see their lives from a different perspective, and gives them an understanding or a perspective that changes the way they had seen it so far. And through their conversation, he takes their pain, acknowledges it, and yet helps them see that's not all there is to it. And after their interaction, he goes away, and they have this line. I'm going to throw it up on the screen here. They have this line that they say in reference to it right here. Can we get that? Yeah, right here. It says, they asked each other, were not our hearts burning within us while he talked with us on the road and opened the scriptures to us? And as I read that today, I read that recently, I was like, were our hearts not burning within us? Some of you guys, would you not love to have your hearts burn with a passion again, to feel an excitement for what the day has to bring? Too many times I'll wake up and all I'm thinking about is when can I get back, and how can I get through this day so I can get back to sleep? But how many of us want to have our hearts burn with an excitement and a passion for life, to know that there is something that's so worth it? Some of you guys know what that feels like, to be like, this is what life is. This is what I want. I would give anything to feel that passion again, to have my hearts burn. And these guys feel that, not because they made it to Emmaus, because they had a conversation with God and they brought him into the pain that they were experiencing. Now over here with Saul, if you look at this story, Acts 9, Saul is on his way to Damascus thinking this is going to be the next thing. And he also, on his way, is interrupted and has an encounter with God. And you can read about it. There's a lot of details that I'm skimming over right now. But in their interaction, God actually says to him, you will not find what you're looking for here, because I am not interested in what you're going to do next. And actually what God says to Saul is, I'm actually going to take away your ability to do things. I'm going to take something from you. I don't want you to do something else. I actually want you to do less. He takes away his sight. And I think this is pretty much true for anybody. For a season of time, when you can't see, there is so much less you can do. You don't believe me? Try it. And as he's on his way to Damascus, he loses his sight. And in the midst of that, God is saying to him, I don't care what you do. This is not about you doing more. This is not about you performing better. This is not about you proving yourself more. I actually love you for who you are, and not what you do defines who you are, but who you are is what I value. And he gives Saul a new name, a new identity. From here on out, and again, a lot of you guys have heard this, he goes by Paul. And Paul is someone that knew what his identity was in Jesus. That Paul is someone that knew what his worth was outside of the reputation he had, how much he had tried to do. And so when Saul's life changes, is not because he arrives in Damascus. It's not because he finds the next thing to define himself by. It's actually because he meets with Jesus, and Jesus redefines who he is with a new name and says, this is not about what you do. I love you for who you are. So in these two stories, the people that are involved in them, they didn't find what they needed to from their own effort. And why that draws me in, why I want to bring this up with you guys, is a lot of times when we come in here, we talk about how do you guys want to live your life? What are the different ways that we can look at different conversations, or how are the different ways you want to shape things? And that's good. But what I don't want you guys to miss is, it is not on you to always try to figure out how to make things right. It's not on you to always try to hold things together, to always find a different way to navigate things. Actually, Jesus is inviting us to have an interaction with him where he can change what our lives look like. So my question to you guys is, have you ever tried that? Are you tired of trying to get to Emmaus? Are you tired of trying to get to Damascus? If you've gotten there, are you disappointed that it didn't change anything? And if you are, then what would it look like to talk with Jesus about what is going on, to invite him in, to see his perspective, to see a different way of what it is to navigate this road? Or do you have a community of people that are walking in this way, trying to figure this out, and are reminding you that you are so much more than just the reputation you think you carry, or just the things that you do? Have you brought this to God, or are you just trying to hold this all together on your own? My hope is that you don't try to do this all on your own. But what I want to do now is we're gonna invite the worship team to come up here, and as they come up here, I want you to just kind of think about this song, think about this question as they play this song. Where are you in either of these two stories? What is your Jerusalem? What is your city that isn't working anymore? What part of your life feels like it's not working anymore? Do you feel yourself drawn to Emmaus? Do you feel yourself drawn to Damascus? What character would you be in this story? And how do you want that story to end? I'm going to pray for us. The worship band's going to come up here. They're going to play a couple of songs. I'd love for you to think about those questions. I'd love for you to hear the words of these songs. These are songs written about the kind of God that we're talking about here. And then we're going to break into small groups, and I'd love for you guys to be able to process those questions in a community. Maybe tonight's the night you want to be a little bit more vulnerable with your group and share with them what's going on. I'd encourage you to. After that, again, if you want to, Leo will be around. If you want to talk to him more about your story, if you want to hear more about the mission trip, I can tell you those things. Let me pray for us, and then we're going to worship. God, we just thank you so much for the opportunity to be here tonight, to get to be in a room together, to get to try to figure out more about who you are and what life with you looks like, is what we're trying to understand. More than anything, we want to have life at its best, and we just pray that in the midst of our story, in the midst of the roads that we are walking, that you would show up and that you would change things, that you make yourself known to us, and heal those places that need healing, reveal to us the directions you have, and bring us into a community of people that can understand more of who you're like. So God, we give you these next few minutes. We worship your name. It's your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Chris. You guys can stand with us. We're all nice and cozy. And like you said, we're going to worship. Stars say, find their way. great name, your great name. He is jealous for me, loves like a hurricane. I am a tree bending beneath the weight of his wind and mercy. And all of a sudden, I am unaware of these afflictions eclipsed by glory. And I realize just how beautiful you are and how great your affections are for me. Oh, how he loves us so. Oh, how he loves us. How he loves us so. He is jealous for me, loves like a hurricane. I am a tree bending beneath the weight of his wind.